All right, Shalom Israel. First and foremost, as always, I would like to give all praises, honor, glory, respect, and blessings to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rahaha, Quadash. Salutations to the Lord's elect on the four corners of the earth, pushing His truth and sincerity, while patiently waiting for Yahweh Shai's return. And double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, which have taught us everything we know through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai. And I just wanted to do a video, pretty much proving that the MOTB, what the Bible calls the mark of the beast, is a physical mark. It's not a spiritual mark. It's not sin in all its forms. The mark of the beast is a physical mark. When it comes to this device, the size of a grain of rice, is all about gaining complete control over the person's life. So what proves that the mark of the beast is a physical mark? The fact that the whole MOTB system is all about putting people in complete subjection under the NWO, gaining full control of people's lives. The MOTB is all about gaining complete control of people's lives. Okay? Controlling what they can buy, what they cannot buy. Controlling, what places they can physically go into. Where they buy food, what kind of food they buy. The MOTB system is all about completely gaining full control of people's lives. They don't want you saying anything about their government. They don't want you bad-mouthing their gods. They don't want you with your own opinion of these so-called elites. Okay? And how can they gain this much power and control over less than 500 million people with sin in all its form? People have the freedom to do sin right now. You can't control somebody through sin. You can't, you can't have full control over somebody's life and what they can eat, where they can go to eat. You can't have full control of somebody's life with a spiritual mark. How you going to how would Esau be able to control somebody with a spiritual mark? And this mark is something that people are going to physically receive. Physical proof will be required to show the so-called elites that you are down with their New World Order society. And a person ain't gonna be able to provide spiritual proof that they're down with their New World Order society. You see, by them putting a micro C-hip inside you, they can know where you are at all times. They can always know where you are going. They can always know where you live at. Even if you call yourself trying to live off the grid from this NWO society. You know, they're still gonna know that you went in the forest somewhere, you know. So you see, through this whole MOTB system, it's all about gaining complete control of a person's life, of people's lives. And by them putting a physical mark inside of you, they can control if you're allowed to go in a grocery store to buy food. They can control if you're allowed to eat this type of food or that type of food. Like, you see what I'm saying? So there's no way the MOTB can be a spiritual mark. You're not going to be able to control somebody with a spiritual mark. And you cannot say that the MOTB is sin in all its form, because sin have been around long before John the Revelator had that vision. Okay? Sin have existed since Adam and Eve, since the book of Genesis. So how can the mark of the beast be sinning? Now, taking it is a sin. It is a sin worthy unto death. Okay? But the mark of the beast is not sin in all its form, man. Because here's another reason that the MOTB couldn't be. There's another reason why the MOTB is not sin in all its form. Okay. Because there's only one nation of people that can sin on this planet, and that are the Israelites. And what is sin? Sin is transgression of the law. Well, who was the laws given to? The book of Psalms 147, verse 19 on down. Okay, the Lord has given his laws, statutes, and commandments to Israelites. Okay? Do not the scriptures speak about gather my children unto me, they which have made a covenant with me by sacrifice? There's only one nation of people who made a covenant with Yahweh, okay, before the laws being given to us. So if Israelites are the only ones who can sin, what about the other nations? You mean telling me they're going to take the micro C hip and not be judged for it? Because apparently, according to these false Israelite groups, okay, they're saying that the MOTB is not the RFID chip. So, if the MOTB was sin in all its forms, right? Well, what about the Arabs? Okay, how are they going to be able to buy and sell it if they can't sin? Because the laws were not given to them. So what about the Arabs? What about the East Indians? What about the Africans? What about the Chinese and Japanese people? How are they going to be able to buy and sell? Because we know that according to Revelation, the 3rd chapter, okay, this MOTB is something that's going to come upon all the world to trial. So in order for these heathen nations that are not under the law, statutes, and commandments, which sin is transgression of the law, okay? Since these other nations are not under the laws, like the Israelites are, they're not going to have any way of sinning, right? Because sin is transgression of the law. So if the MOTB which is going to come upon all the world to try on, right? If the MOTB was sin in all its form, well, how are the other nations going to be able to sin if they cannot sin? But anyways, you know, the whole doctrine is bugged out. Okay? Anybody with a working brain would easily be able to see that the mark of the beast is the CHIP. The device the size of a grain of rice. Okay? And if anybody take that, there's no way for you to repent. Okay? Because by you taking that C-hip, you've basically made a covenant with the enemy. You agreed to live in his society in sin and wickedness. Because the NWO is gonna be a world ruled by the so-called elites who are the wicked. So you're gonna have, you might have to do some wicked sacrifices in order for you to keep your home. You know, you might have to sacrifice your. They might make you sacrifice your child, just for you to maintain your living condition. The MOTB would give the so-called elites so much physical power and control over the people that basically it would be impossible for them to live without the so-called elites having some say-so in their life. Well, without them having a say-so in their life. And that's basically what it's coming down to. So the MOTB would lead to complete physical power and control over the people. You know, if you rebel against the government, they could just turn off your chip, right? Then you would not be able to enter the store. You would not be able to use the vending machine. The vending machine. You know, you wouldn't be able to use their public e-bikes. You see?
Wait, 80th Street. Walk signs on the cross.
You see? And that's the type of power that the so-called elites want over the people. If you rebel against the government, they could just cut you off from society. You won't be able to interact with the public anymore. You know, you wouldn't have access to your own apartment or your own studio where you live at, because the only way for your door to open is for your chip to be activated, right? Well, I'm not going to say your chip. I'm going to say the chip, because we know the elect is not going to take the RFID chip, which is the MOTB. So, well, without the chip, okay, a person would not be able to, they would not be able to open the door to get into their own apartment. They would not be able to enter a grocery store, because the only way the door is open is if it senses a device the size of a grain of rice inside you. You won't be able to buy anything at the store, because the CHIP has been deactivated. So the MOTB is all about full control and power over people's lives. And there's no way the so-called elites can gain full control or power over people's lives with a spiritual mark or with sin in all its form. Okay? It's all about that physical power and control over the people. And they plan on putting a micro C-hip in people to gain full control and power over them. So, if we read Revelation, right? Revelation 13 and 16, it says, and he causeth. Now, causeth means that he's going to put out a decree. It's going to be a mandatory decree, right? That all small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, receive a charagma. As you see that word M-A-R-K right there, is Hebrew for charagma. I mean, it's not Hebrew. It's Greek for charagma, okay? It says in their right hand or in their foreheads, you know? So it says that people are going to receive this mark inside their right hand or in their forehead. So this is going to be, receiving the MOTB is going to physically, people are going to physically make a conscious decision to take the chip, whether if it's to eat, whether if it's to live, whether if it's for security, whether if it's because they want their life to go back to a sense of normalcy. You know? So people are going to physically make a conscious decision to take this mark. And when you take something, that is a physical action. Receiving the MOTB is synonymous with a physical action. Esau cannot physically make you sin through breaking the laws, you know? Esau cannot physically control you with a spiritual mark. So this is what people are going to do. They're going to physically make a conscious decision to take this mark. The mark is something that people are going to physically receive, not spiritually receive. People are going to receive it, okay? And it's not going to be by sinning. And it's not going to be by, taking the MOTB is a sin, but people is not going to receive the mark, by just simply sinning. Like you smoke a cigarette, now you got the MOTB. No. Okay. People is going to receive the MARK of the BEAST. Wait. By physically receiving it, which is indeed a sin unto death. But the MOTB is not sin in all its forms, okay? And it's definitely not Salak, I'm just trying to cross the street here. But Okay, it says, and the cause of all, meaning he gonna put out a decree, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a M-A-R-K, a charagma, which when you go into that word charagma, okay, as I've said earlier, okay, it is tied.
Wait.
Okay, the charagma is tied to an insurgent. Okay, it's going to mention a bunch of words under that definition that is synonymous to people physically receiving it. In an insurgent, when they take a needle and plunge it into somebody's skin just to inject something into their body, right? That is a insurgent. That is a physical mark. Okay? A physical mark that people are going to physically receive. Okay? So, you know, that word there, the Greek word for M-A-R-K in Revelation 13 and 16 is charagma. Okay? Which means an insurgent, to prick upon.
Wait.
Okay? And that no man might buy or sell. How are you going to buy and sell with sin in all its forms? You know? How are you going to buy and sell with a spiritual mark? Okay? You're not going to be able to do it. Again, another indicator that the mark of the beast is a physical mark. Because buying and selling is synonymous with what? A physical action. Okay? It is synonymous with a physical action. But yeah, buying and selling is synonymous with a physical action. Okay? It is a physical action, not a spiritual one. You're not going to be able to buy and sell spiritually. Because in order to buy and sell with a spiritual mark, you would need spiritual goods for that. But anyways, you're not going to be able to buy or sell a physical object with a spiritual mark. And there's only one type of spiritual mark mentioned in the Holy Scriptures, and that's Ezekiel, the 9th chapter. The Tawah, which means exemption from judgment. Okay? It's impossible for the Edomites to put a spiritual mark on you. Okay? So, buying and selling is a physical aspect of life, which means in order to buy or sell with the MOTB, it will physically have to be on you. And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the M-A-R-K, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that have understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. And then, of course, you go to Revelation, the 14th chapter. It goes into the punishment of what happens if you take the M-A-R-K. Okay, Revelation 14 and 9. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast in his image and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Yahweh, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And that fire and brimstone is going to come from nuclear warheads, which will be shot off from Russia, China, North Korea, India, Iran, and other countries that have nuclear capabilities. Okay, that fire and brimstone is going to come from the nuclear warheads, basically turning this place being Babylon, America, turning it into a lake of fire. Okay, so basically what this is saying is that, okay, basically, so like, I'm at the LQ right now, so I'm not going to speak too loud, but basically, okay, anybody who has the MARK will be left here on the soils of America to be taken by the nuclear destruction. And the elect which we know will not take the MOTB, okay, we know that they're going to get beamed up into what the world calls UFOs. Okay, they're going to be taken up into what the world calls UFOs, where they're going to be shielded from the nuclear destruction. But yeah, I don't want this lesson to drag on too long. With that, I'm going to say shalom. Is on to the next one.